Good morning, and thank you very much. Now, the participants of the Reach 2025 conference, dear ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who may not know, my name is Martin Hojsík. I'm Vice President of the European Parliament, member of its Committee on Environment, Public Health and Food Safety. And I had the privilege in the past to also be in a previous mandate, the liaison for ECHA. Now, I'm also, of course, active in other committees, including the ITRE, but ENVI is the particularly and the most relevant committee of the European Parliament responsible for the European chemicals policies. Now, in the previous legislative term, the European Commission adopted the Chemical Strategy for Sustainability, which is serving as a roadmap for the chemical industry, but also for the legislation. The European Parliament welcomed it, and we believe that we urgently need a vision to modernize our industry and to move towards a non-toxic environment. But it's also only about the human health and environment. The modernization, the safe by design, the sustainability are the crucial and cornerstones of the competitiveness, because that's the direction the business is going. And if we don't, as a Europe, lead, we'll start losing. I believe that we need a vision that would help with the transformation of the whole European industry from east to west. And I mean east to west of Europe, because otherwise we'll experience two-speed Europe, disruption of the single market, and inequality in terms of consumer protection, but also growing division in terms of the competitiveness and business performance. And let me give you one example on the protection of people. Recently, France decided to ban PFAS in clothing and cosmetics. Now, I'm wondering, does my skin, as someone coming from Slovakia, better accept or is more resistant to PFAS than a skin of average French citizen? Of course not. This is happening when Europe does not move as a whole. And it's not only this, let's call it unfair treatment, but it also causes the fragmentation of the market, something which makes it harder for businesses to operate. And of course, the citizens are losing the trust, as this is a clear double standard and it's hard to justify. In the previous legislative term, we made some progress in terms of the European legislation. We revised the CLP to improve its enforcement, make it more predictable for businesses and regulators alike, strengthening the chemicals market, and we moved also on the digital labeling. And we also reflected new types of modern sales like online and refill. We modernized the detergent regulation that will finally kickstart availability of safe and sustainable microbial cleaning products. The OSA package was adopted to ensure the coherent safety assessment of chemicals across the different legislations. And the European Commission has adopted voluntary framework recommendations on safe and sustainable by design, addressed to member states, industry, technology organizations, academia. And it has since then kept engaging with each of the stakeholder groups to get a feedback to make the framework workable. These are some of them, but let's be honest, there is lots of what we have not done. And we have to still deliver to improve the consumer protection, to ensure safe and sustainable by design, and to create the right legislative framework to help to boost the competitiveness of the European industry. And now this includes the revision of the cosmetics regulation on full contact materials. Let's admit it, both are obsolete. And when it comes to adopted changes, they all need to be implemented. In other words, it will take some time for them to become visible. Do not expect the updated labels overnight. Lately, we have been talking a lot about the competitiveness, and we know that our chemical industry needs help. It needs predictable policies. That's why I'm convinced that we must not backtrack. We need to keep implementing the CSS, otherwise we'll experience what the automotive industry has done, or what has experienced. We already see a boom of green chemistry in China, boosted by the state support. We see, and I hear from chemical companies complaints that, well, they want to go sustainable, but they see a lot of competition coming from China. And the way forward is not to pretend that this is not the way, but how can we as a Europe make it better? So I believe we should strongly build the SSBD in all our upcoming actions, and the R&D activities should be properly supported by the Union member states financing. We have to also look at how to utilize properly the procurement, how to make sure that really we support Europe's strategic autonomy. And to do that, we really need to modernize REACH. 20 years ago, it was a groundbreaking moment, but 20 years are a long time. And I think it's time to really look at how we can make the REACH reflect what we learned. As a European Parliament, we demanded it's the ambitious revision of REACH. We expect that the European Commission will, and hope by the end of the year finally, publish a legislative proposal that reflects the need for innovation within the chemical industry, and at the same time will support the societal demand for non-toxic products and environment. Therefore, we as a Parliament keep reminding the Commission what it's committed itself to introduce the following elements in the REACH 2.0. One, the mixture assessment factors, or MAFs. Also, an obligation to register subsets of polymers. We cannot lag behind countries like Korea, Japan, even US to some extent, that already collect information about the possible hazards and exposure to polymers. Increase knowledge about the chemicals in the supply chain by including an obligation of chemical safety reporting for substances between 1 and 10 tons of annual production, and want to be a knowledgeable society, not an ignorant. So please know that as much as you can of us in the Parliament and institutions to improve the policies and legislations, what we need in the coming months and I would say years is not just your experience, but also your contribution and input into the policy making, because this is really, really important that we have an ongoing dialogue on how to improve the policies. So let me wish you a fruitful discussions and a wonderful experience in Krakow.